Well, hello, friends, and welcome to the Busy to Rich podcast, where we help financial advisors grow their businesses beyond the products they sell and the assets they manage to increase profitability and reclaim their time by providing strategies and insights that will not only change your life, but your practice. This week, we have a special treat for you. You get a chance to see a sneak peek recorded live session with our Transform Learning Series alumni. We hold these regularly for our alumni attendees. You're going to get a chance to see Wes go through some of the conversations, the follow-up, and frequently asked challenges that our advisors are going through as they're making a transition or continue to build their practice. We hope you enjoy.
Well, listen, we'll go ahead and get started, everybody. So glad you showed up. Happy Friday to everybody. We got some fun stuff we'll go through today. And really, these are all about just trying to give you some thinking that's maybe a reminder of some of the things you've already seen sometimes, because I love that Samuel Johnson quote that we need to be reminded more than we need to be instructed. Because oftentimes it's not necessarily the brand new thing. It's reminding ourselves, oh yeah, that thing that I was doing or was planning on doing, I stopped doing or I didn't do. And so that's always a fun part. So I'll go through some content here, and then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. So what I want to show you today, I want to talk about the cycles of organizational growth, and then specifically get into some of the things that, depending on the season of your life and where you're at, will move the needle. And so I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm gonna bring this up. So you might be familiar with this. This is, I love this graphic because I think it really helps put into a visual display some of the things that I think are so powerful when you can really get your head around it. And so this is what we call the normal and new cycle of growth expander. So if you think about the little pie chart that's appearing all over these series of S curves, the S curves are representative of really the pattern that typical growth would follow if somebody is continuing to try and get to a next level consciously. And you've got where we spend our time. So you've got the gray, which represents a normal. This is your current way about going about making progress, habits that you have, language you use, systems, processes, technology, markets, memberships you belong to, the quality and quantity of your team, the networks that you're operating within, all these things that make up your current muscle memory way of making progress. And then you have new. And new is simply a transformed or different or enhanced way of doing all those things. And you've heard me say this many, many times, that our greatest opportunity to recognize our future possibilities is not about abandoning our normal or rejecting new, but rather to keep the tension healthy between the two. And there's a great quote that I love that I stumbled across, the author of The Art, or the War of Art. And so, different from The Art of War, there's a book called that too that's kind of cool, but the War of Art. And he says that all of us, we all have two lives: the life we live and the unlived life within us. In between those two stands resistance. And I love it because I truly think it's the way that when you're growing to a next level, what are you trying to do? You're trying to unearth the unlived life within you. Because we all are in a place in our lives, and we all have a place in our heads, whether we've taken the time to really define it or not, that is better. That at least we think it's better. And that's true of every area of our life we care about. Certainly our professional life, which we're going to talk about today, but also our financial life, our physical health, our relationships that we have, our spiritual life, all the big areas. And you could subcategorize those out if you wanted to. But if you just think about it, I was thinking about this as it relates to business. And so when I came into the business, I was 24 years old. I had been working as I was a licensed electrician, but I also had moved more into the account management, sales type space. And when I was first coming into this role, there were a lot of qualities I had, a lot of skills I developed that would serve me well here. And they were already a part of my normal. I knew how to send emails and make phone calls. I knew to some extent how to cultivate relationships in a way. I had a network that I had built, so that was coming with me. That was at a certain level. What I didn't know was a whole bunch of other stuff that I needed to know, that I needed to get good at for this business. So I would say, when I came to this business, I was like operating at 25% normal, that's this bottom part of the pie chart of the cycles of growth, and about 75% new. I was learning about products and systems that we would use to utilize to do what we do here as a brand new agent with New York Life. And and then as you grow and develop, hopefully what's beginning to happen is a lot of that new becomes a part of your normal, right? That's why we practice and we go to classes and we practice scripts and we set up appointments and we have them, because you get better by practice. You get better by living out the life of an advisor. And so then I moved to like a 20 or 50-50, maybe. It's like a 50% new, 50% normal. And then as time goes by, hopefully what's happening is you're able to pedal faster, right? That bike, you first get on it and you don't even know how to ride. You're just kind of stumbling around, putting your feet down a lot, maybe even some training wheels. But then you take those training wheels off and you're able to ride at a certain pace. And then you get stronger and you're pedaling. And now you're at a 25% new, 75% normal. And that's where scale begins to happen. That's where you're really doing a good job in the role that you came in at, the door you came in at. And then a funny thing will occur. At some point, you're going to get to the top of this S curve, and you will make a choice, or by default or by design, to either continue to just try and pedal faster or get a different setup, because what got you to here is not going to get you up here to this next 10x growth, or this next level of maturity that you could be, and value creation in this business. Because all these curves are just a series of value creations. We want to become capable of creating more and more value at different levels in this business. And to do that, what has to happen is you actually, in some cases, have to add another gear. We talk about that all the time. When I was adding assistants in there to help me process business so I didn't have to do it, or do administrative things for me that could take that off of my plate. All those things that I was doing, it was like putting another gear on that bicycle. So even though I was pedaling the same speed, I was going further faster, because that gear really helped me do that. Now, I learned a lot there, because let's take this example further. When I was adding that assistant, I sometimes would add somebody that didn't have any experience in our business, right? So a lot of things were new to them. They didn't have a lot of normal, so they were missing some teeth on that gear. I think I hired one assistant that was literally missing some teeth one time, just because I was looking to get anybody I could. But those teeth were missing. So even if I was good at pedaling and working with that second gear, it wouldn't go as fast until I would get the right gear with all the teeth. And so as you're thinking about your next hire, and we're going to talk about that today, how you hire and who you hire, you have to ask for where I'm at in the cycles of growth and what I'm looking to add that's going to, I think, take me to my next 10x jump. One, am I trying to do this on the cheap? And am I trying to get a gear that's not really got all its teeth for where I think I could go? Am I going to have to get them licensed? Are they going to have to be trained? If that's the case, they're missing some teeth. They're never going to be as effective. And people say, well, but to get somebody that's already got all those teeth, it costs more. And let me tell you something. There's cost either way, right? There's a cost to hiring somebody that costs more money, that needs to be paid more money, because they're a better initial investment. And there's a cost if you pay less because they don't have all the teeth. It affects your ability to move forward, what you could be out there doing, what you could be out there creating, your next 10x jump. So when you're evaluating these things, and we'll look at organizational charts here in a second, you've really got to ask yourself the question, okay, who am I? But am I getting somebody that's 75% new and 25% normal for the job I need them to be great at? Or am I getting somebody that's more, 80, 75, 25 the other way, where their 25% is new things, our systems, the way we do it here, the technologies we happen to use to integrate, but they already can do these things. They've just maybe done them in a different place. They've already got runs on the board, because otherwise it's a longer growth cycle, and we're trying to avoid that. And I get it. But remember, you don't pay their salary 100% up front. You pay it every couple of weeks. And so you're going to find out you'll be far less frustrated. You'll go through a lot less people if you get somebody that's already good in the space that you're hiring for. Now, it could also be things like technologies that you use. I'll give you a recent one that for us, I think is over the last, couple of years have been a game changer, is utilizing Loom. Loom or anything that can record you and your screen. Because one of the things when we prepare for meetings, remember we've talked about this in the past, what happens? So if you don't have, again, this is like, how many gears do you have? But if you don't have somebody that's preparing you for your meetings, then you are your own paraplanner, right? You're your own project manager, paraplanner, and you're the lead advisor. And so whether it's you doing it or whether it's, hopefully at some point you get that other gear in there, somebody doing this on your team. Uh, One tool that's a game changer is if they're preparing for 10 meetings for you the next week, and they've pulled up the stuff they know you're going to want to see. We have very specific kinds of meetings. As you guys know, we have mid-years, year ends. In an onboarding year, we'll have a location meeting, we'll have an expectation meeting, and then we have a series of direction meetings until we get them on that annual cycle of operations with us. But whatever it is, our paraplanner is going to put everything together for that client. And then they're going to spend 5 minutes when their head was around it. They were fresh. They'd spent the 30 minutes to an hour getting in that client. And then they're going to loom themselves going, okay, here is the way this meeting's going to flow. You're going to show this. Here's the agenda we have for it. You're then going to move to this balance sheet, and here that is. And then you're going to show this or this illustration, whatever type of meeting it might be, this chart, this graphic. And then you're going to make sure that the goal of the meeting is to end by making sure that on the strategy summary, we accomplish these 3 things, or at least we make progress towards them. And they're going to stop that Loom meeting. And then Monday morning, as the lead advisor, when you got your slate full of meetings, don't Mondays sometimes feel heavy? And they feel heavy because if you got a slate full of meetings, you're thinking about all the things you have to prepare for and remember. And you've got this week, the whole weight of the week is in front of you. And instead, wouldn't it be great to come in Monday and watch a series of 5-minute Loom videos that get your mind renewed to where this client is and what you're going to talk about? And then you're not cobbling things together or waiting for someone who's prepared those things for you, that slept, through a weekend, maybe went to a party and had some drinks and had prepared for 12 other meetings after they prepared for this one, to be in that meeting with you going, well, here, let me remember all the stuff we're going to talk about. And I think we need this. And it looks like this. Instead of all that, what if they just watched and you watched a 5-minute Loom video? And then you said, hey, let's add this to the agenda. Let's make sure we talk about this. Oh, I have a bright idea. I'm looking at my narratives checklist. And remember, those of you definitely want to, I'm just going to bring that up while we're here because it happens all the time. Let me bring up a different window. So remember the narratives checklist. No, that's the wrong site. Hold on. Is right here on the homepage. You go to tools and you've got your narratives checklist. You've got your meeting prep checklist. You got some other tools here, but always have this narratives checklist up, because if you do, what does it have? It has all these ideas. So if I'm preparing for a meeting, I've watched the Loom video and I'm looking at all the things that the paraplanner and project manager already have on that list. I'm just going to go, does any of this other stuff apply? And I'm going to go, and it's, curated list of all these different things that you could possibly talk about with clients. Now, most of it's not going to apply in every meeting, but what do I need to remind them of? What is the opportunity here, or the things we're trying to move forward? And so by doing so, and by the way, if you forget, what does that even mean? You can click it and it's going to be a video of me explaining what that particular idea was. So a great way to use, again, efficiency. It's like going to get you to that next level, begin incorporating these things in. The other things that as you're preparing, you watch that, then you actually go through your week, right? So let's say you have a block calendar like I do, and you've prepared on Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you're having client meetings. Well, again, I slept since Monday. So Tuesday, by the time I'm on my 3rd meeting, I might have not be as fresh on that client anymore. Well, I rewatched the 5-minute Loom video, 10 minutes before the meeting, and I'm going, oh, I know exactly where we're going and exactly what we're talking about. And so it's just a great way. And if that client reschedules, boy, in the old days, you had to do it all over again, didn't you? Now you don't. Because you've already captured what you wanted to talk about with that client, and you've already got it all there. So people make this work harder than it needs to be. And so when you can use Loom, we call it, put it in the mind vault, mind vault method of preparation. When your head was around it, put it in the mind vault. We do this with things like estate flows. So we have clients that we like to visually show them, hey, you both living, here's the size of your estate. And as a first death, here's what happens. It goes to the survivor of the two of you. And it goes in trust like this. And here's the amount that's in there based on today's date. And then at the second death, here's what happens. It goes in trust for the benefit of the kids. Kids become co-trustee at age 25, full trustee at 35. And here's who all your other trustees are. Here's who your powers of attorney are. We will put that in the client's client file. And then anytime we have a question or people are asking us about, hey, Wes, what does my estate plan do? Well, let me give me 5 minutes and I can go watch it. Or better yet, I can send that to them. Right, as long as there's no non-public information in it, where it just simply is first names and things like that in there. It's a very powerful way to quickly go ahead and get the client's mind around it, and clients love it. But for us, it's a great tool for you. The things that you find yourself going back to and talking about all the time, these are great things to capture because they're a little different for each client. We do these premium schedules where we like to say, okay, because I have some clients that have like 10 policies, right? And probably many of you, for various reasons, have a lot of policies. I have 14 whole life policies because over time, we do better and I convert another one and I build that family bank up using that fixed asset. Well, I like to look at mine and go, okay, here's all your policies on a spreadsheet. And then below that, it shows all the premiums I've paid and when they're due to stop being paid. And we walk through, we have one of our paraplanners prepare that and walk through each one. Very valuable tool when I'm preparing to have a client meeting, particularly like mid-years is when we typically use that. So use the Mind Vault is one of these things it may be new for you, but I can tell you if you're not doing it, because what happens if we don't change, right? What happens if we just trying to pedal faster and not add new people, new technology, like the things I've been describing? Eventually you plateau and eventually you will decline. Because all of us know that to be better, we have to do something different. But also, if you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, naturally the world changes around you and you will not be keeping up with it. Blockbuster Video, it was a great example of that, right? They were the best video store out there, but nobody was going to a video store anymore. And we don't want to be that. We want to continue to put ourselves up, and it requires exercising this muscle of new, because new is a muscle, and you have to have an appetite for new. Certainly you don't always go 50-50, but a lot of times you're going to want to continue to move your practice forward to the direction that you're capable of achieving. Another technology I'll just bring up today is Zox. So Zox, if you're not familiar with Zox or we haven't talked about it, you've been on calls, we've talked about it. It's a note-taking application that'll join your Zooms. It'll also, you can have it on your phone if you're on an on-location meeting, let's say, or on your iPad, whatever you want. And you just press the button and Zox is going to take notes for you. And at the end of that meeting, it puts it in a very nice template. They've got a variety of different templates. We were actually having them build. He just shot me an email today, said, hey, I built out the location phase template for those of you who are actively using our process that breaks down the information the way we typically like to see it. And it's a wonderful, it takes better notes than any human, than any paraplanner that you're going to have. They still have them in the meeting because they get reps and they're going to be ultimately the one curating those notes to make sure is everything in here that we want. And they're still going to send a meeting note out to say, hey, bottom line of this meeting was this. Here's everything that needs to happen. We still take those notes and store them in the client history so that we can go back and see all the details if we want, or we can see the little summary. So and it's phenomenal. So there's lots of note-taking apps so far for financial professionals. Zox has been one of the best ones I've seen. So I'd recommend you think about that. And again, so technology is always going to be one of those things that's improving and moving. And so if you consider yourself, Wes, I'm not a technology person, or that you've kind of used that language about yourself, the thing I would say with that is your shoelaces are a technology. Okay, a stapler is technology. You've just chosen to put certain aspects of technology in a category that says, oh, that's too hard. I'm not going to do that. Listen, the world is those. I'm going to try and find this quote for you guys that I found it this morning, and I've said it in different ways before. So this is Eric Hoffer. He says, in times of change, learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. And I find that to be so true. And guess what? We're in a changing world all the time. And we can learn to dance in that world using the tools that just weren't even there 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, today, 1 year ago, 3 years ago, whatever, maybe a couple weeks ago. We discovered Zox 4 weeks ago, and it's become a major needle. I didn't know it existed, but you know why I know it exists? Because I look for it and then I try it on. Now I try on a lot of stuff, doesn't fit. or doesn't fit yet, right? So and you all, if you shop or you get things on Amazon like I do, sometimes it doesn't fit and you got to send it back, but that's okay. Just make it an ethic to have new as a part of your DNA, because those are the people that are going to reach their next 10x jumps if they're willing to take new and normalize it. Because this is a never-ending process. You never arrive. The moment you arrive, you plateau, and then you eventually decline. For many of you, if you've not, and now most of you have done this because you went through a COVID world. Used to be when I would go to meetings, because we were remote, like, gosh, 12 years ago now, and I'd go to meetings and people'd say, "How do you do that?" I could never do that. That's typically the answer. And not that they'd tried it, and not that they'd actually tried it well, but they just said, no, and what they were saying is, I'm not going to do that. Because I've got a way normal that I've been doing this. Just like when Netflix went to Blockbuster and said, hey, we think people rent DVDs from us through the mail. In fact, we proved the concept, they'll do it. And we're not here to replace the video store. We're just saying there's a certain subset of people that want to do this. And then gradually what happened is that subset of people became the majority until no longer were there any video stores, and then Netflix, they are excellent at this normalize the new dance, because they don't send those out in the US postal system like they used to, do they? Now you just go to your TV and they've become a basically a movie making company or a series making company. But if you look, they evolve all the time. And that's what we have to have the mindset of. So those of you who now, maybe because COVID settled down, you're not having this, you're back in the office, right? Everybody's showing up, or you're having your meetings in the office. I would just challenge you to not do that by default, to say, hey, by design, could this be a Zoom meeting? Because I will tell you, and we have done pretty well here. We have almost 100%, not quite 100, because there's still times where I'll have an on location meeting with a client where you can do every part of this process from beginning to end. Many of our clients that are all across the country, I've never physically been in the same room with. And they're our team all across the country. They're spread out all across the country. And there's no geographic limitation of who could be a part of our organization, because we operate with using technology and systems. So just think about those things. Where in your life right now are you? And you may even have already you're having this conversation with me in your head right now. You're going, well, I can tell you why that won't work with me. And if you knew my situation, Wes, and I would just say, the moment you hear yourself starting to do that is the moment you are defending the normal and you're rejecting new. And the greatest opportunities for you to reach your next capabilities, for you to live the unlived life within you, because I know you have one, even if it's not well defined, you want things to be better. And you've got some, even if it's a messy version of what better might be. And I encourage you to take the time to go define that a little more, really, really wrap some legs around it and say, okay, what would this walk out? How would I walk this life out 3 years from today or a year from today? What does a great day in the life of me look like in this business? And then you can say, to do that, I can't just keep running faster and working harder, doing what I've always done. I've got to add another gear. And you just got to decide what's your gear, because you can't do everything. Okay. This is like you show up to a buffet, everything looks good on it. And if you could fill 10 plates, right? But you can only really eat one, maybe two, if you want to leave there really stuffed, right? So it's because you can't eat everything. So you got to decide what is the biggest thing. And I think that's where a lot of times, if you struggle to interpret that, because I'm going to tell you, I've done this and coached a lot of advisors and over time. And when I look at this growth curve, I'll bring it back up. And I look at people reach this next level, or maybe they're 4 or 5 levels. I mean, this is an example. This is unlimited until you're off the planet, right? You're born over here and you die over here, but until you're off the planet, you can keep iterating things to another 10x jump. Certainly it may look different. I look very different today in what I do in the day in the life of me versus what I did when I started, and versus what I did 5 years ago and 3 years ago, and even 1 year ago. It's very different. So what do you want yours to look like? Well, a lot of times, if you're wanting to introduce holistic fee-based planning, and because you're kind of at this place where you're like, hey, to get to another jump, I'd really think that may be the next thing. What do I need to do? Well, let me tell you shouldn't be on your list. Sending out birthday cards is not a new innovation that's going to get you to your next 10x jump. That's poor judgment on that. But you know what would? I can tell you what Wood is going right now and calling your clients. And let me show you. You will all, Cheryl's going to make sure everybody gets sent this before we're done. You are sitting on just diamonds, a land full of diamonds with your existing client base. This is a very simple sample script that when we are working with people that have already been your client for a while, this is exact words that I would use. You'd say, "Hey, Bob, I'd love to get a strategy session on the calendar in the next couple of weeks with you. We've built out a lot of new capabilities over the past few years, and I'd love to show you how we're working with new clients. It's a little bit different from when you and I first started working together because we've gotten better and we've been collaborating for many years. I just want to make sure I kind of reintroduce you to kind of how we work right now." You know what most of them at that point will say? "No, it sounds great, Wes." And so what then you would go and you would have a location phase meeting with them. And again, you learn this in Transform, or go back if you and watch it. If you're still in the Transform community, you can rewatch that language, because that language is so critical to just having a good reintroduction meeting. Because what I think sometimes we're afraid of this for is they're like, "Well, I don't want them to think they weren't getting the best." Well, listen, they weren't. And they know it. And so when they started with you, you should be better than you were 5 years ago. And you ought to be a whole lot better 5 years from now if you're growing, if you're iterating. So you just got to take the time to go, "Hey, love to show you what new clients experience that come into to work with us that's different from what when we started collaborating together all those years ago." And you take them through that location phase meeting, and guess what you're going to get out of that? You're going to get a lot of people that end up becoming fee-based clients that were not before. And I've seen this work so many times. So we get a great example of this. This happened in our practice. This is exactly what we use. There's a little fun example here too. If you get somebody who's like, "Well, what are you doing different now?" And you could say, "Hey, well, let me just give you one quick example. You know how it's easy to see a lot of profit slip away to the tax system? We now focus on strategies that help address that. We develop unique process to guide clients, and I'd love to walk you through it and see if it resonates with you. If you wanted to, you could even throw in a specific example. Like, we have this one client and they have 3 kids. You guys know those. I use it all the time. Or like they were using their house for business meetings, didn't know that they could rent their house from their business for 14 days, get a full tax deduction at the business level, and not pick it up in personal income. Um, so these are going to be great clients because we converted all of our non-fee clients to fee. And now so this is a great example. We bought 50% of another advisor's practice. The advisor's still in the business. They're a great advisor. They produced really well. They weren't charging a lot of fees. Okay. They charged some, and they had a lot of assets they were managing, and they do insurance. And so we took them over and we said, "Okay," we said, "We're going to partner with you. We're going to buy 50%. And then here's what we're going to do. We're going to wrap our systems, our process, and our language around the existing team, move some team members in the right seats on the bus." And everybody's like, "Okay, we're on board." And I'm going to tell you, in just the first 2 months of doing this, and again, this is also in dealing with systems and processes, using this exact language and taking them through our process, the location phase conversation, expectation meeting. We've already generated over $200,000 of new fees with existing clients that were already in the client cycle. So this works. And you can, and again, remember right now, if you're arguing with me in your head and you're saying, "Yeah, but Wes, it wouldn't work for me," and I can tell you why, just understand you're defending the normal instead of embracing new. Now, again, you're not throwing out the normal. We got to blend that normal into your new. Most of our problems happen in between both our ears. It's your own limiting beliefs that cause you not to fully embrace what you're capable of. So for all of you, the things I would say is, as it relates to those cycles of growth, and I'm going to jump into an org chart here in a second. Remember, we're talking about a lot of things today. Just pick one. Just pick one. Just pick one that you think, "This will move the needle. This is what I want to focus on right now." And that could be, as soon as you hang up from here, going and scheduling 4 location phase conversations with using that script. Because when you really learn stuff, like I know many of you are longtime alumni and have been through Transform multiple times. Some of you, it's your very first time. Where we often have is, because you go through the process, you see all these things you want to do. You see all these things people you want to hire, things that would enhance your business, things you want to implement. and you want it to happen all right now, right? And then it becomes so overwhelming that you don't do anything, right? You're like, well, I can't do all of it, so I'm not going to do any of it. Just do one thing. Make the first light you go through green. You don't have to wait till all the lights are green going downtown Austin from my house in Cedar Park to drive. You can go through the first green light, and when you hit the next light, you deal with that one. So when you schedule I love we did a whole podcast on this. The inspiration is the deadline. When you schedule a location meeting, guess what you get really good at the week before that meeting? The location conversation. And again, we've got whole scripts for that. We've got the videos that talked about how our language on that and how we move it. Because if you use that language, it is going to work. I promise you it will work. But you know when you're really going to know it? It's not when you go, hey, I'm just going to study it and I'm going to study that. I'm going to study the expectation. I'm going to study all these other things. When you're really going to know it is when it's on Tuesday and it's Monday. You're going to spend time digging into that thing. And all of a sudden, all the things you could do, they're all over here. But what's in front of you is that deadline. And it makes you get really good at that. And when that goes well and you schedule the expectation meeting, you know what you're going to get really good at? The expectation meeting. You're going to get really good at going, okay, I got to rewatch that video. And for this client, this is a real world example. This isn't theoretical. Like, it's great to talk about John and Jane Nylick, right? We love talking about John and Jane Nylick. But the problem is when it's not John and it's Bill and Sue Johnson and they're real people and I got an expectation phase meeting, I can overlay that pattern and then I can use my narrative checklist and I can practice that conversation, that flow of conversation. Best thing to do, this is a very powerful tool. Do a loom of yourself doing a sample location meeting. Do a loom of yourself doing a preparing for the expectation meeting, like the whole thing. Just practice it. And then I recommend you do this. You watch it and you watch it three different ways. First, I want you to watch it, and I don't even want you to look at yourself doing anything. I just want you to listen to how you sound. And I want you to listen objectively. Like, give yourself some props where you think you're doing well. And also, if you have a bunch of ums, ahs, you knows, pause words, we all have them. Go, okay, I'm going to work to get that out of there, right? I'm going to work to not because you sound clunkier maybe, or sometimes if it works and it sounds good, flow with it, right? This isn't a grammar test. It's not an English paper you're writing, right? This is like, how do we engage with people in a conversation? And sometimes that's not grammatically accurate, right? Because you've listened to me for a long time, right? So then watch it this way. Watch it with the sound off and just watch you and watch what's occurring on the screen. Because oftentimes, some people, they walk around or they speak in a way where they have a big keep out sign on their face. You ever seen those people? They call them RBS face. They walk around with RBS face. You know what I'm talking about? Resting bad face is what I'll say. So they walk around with that, and you know what? They lose opportunities. The only place where RBS face works is in prison. And so unless you're going to prison, don't have that face. You need to show up with a face that says, "Hey, come on in. I'd love to talk to you." Be inviting, and think about that in every environment you go into, just throughout your day, the coffee shop, the gym. It's amazing the difference between someone that has an inviting presence and someone who has a keep out sign. And oftentimes, really good advisors, sometimes in those meetings, I'm like, are you mad at someone? Are you mad at them while you're doing that? And so just know, how am I showing up? What's my presence like in that particular conversation? And then if you're really brave, and only the brave among you will do this, is you send those videos to somebody else who's in Transform. And you say, I'm not going to defend my habits. I'm not going to tell you why I did it different, or I'm just going to let you tell me. And okay. And I'll listen, you send them to me, I'll watch them, because here's what's happened. Most of you won't do this. Okay. Now, I'll be shocked if I start getting hundreds of them. Then we may have to figure out a different system. But I believe that there will be some that do it. And those of you that do it, it's radically, because I'll tell you everything. I'll say, hey, you were good here. Here's some things I'd work on. Here's where you don't quite have the language. That is a powerful way to show up in the world when you're working on yourself that way. So anyway, I digress a little bit, took a little bit of a rabbit trail, but I think it's a powerful one. So you right now, you just need to pick those things, but the inspiration's the deadline. Don't worry about, I have to know all these strategies and tactics before I can go talk about it. When you need to talk about it, there's going to be a meeting showing up, and you've already done the location phase. So you know what is on there, and you're going to say, oh, hey, I do need to know that S Corp strategy. I do need to know about a, donor advised fund or whatever it might be that's going to be relevant to the conversation, because you're using your narrative checklist, and then you record yourself doing it. I mean, this is how you get better. What we think oftentimes, I love that C.S. Lewis quote, we come into this business in a state of starry-eyed enthusiasm. And then we educate ourselves to a place of sophisticated confusion, right? We're like, I got to know more. And sometimes people are professional learners, but not doers. You give me a doer all day long. In our organization, we always say one of the key qualities of a person is we need someone who is a doer. Not just someone who's smart. Smart people are great, and we have smart doers, but I need somebody that's actually going to apply the paint, not just go gather cans of paint. And the way you do that is not wait until everything in the world is right to start. You start. And you're going to learn real quick where you're not great. And then you can polish and you can get better, but just focus on that first thing. Don't let the rest overwhelm you. And then as you get good, because what's going to happen is at some point that's going to become muscle memory. That's going to be, you've normalized that new, and now you're able to see things differently. That's why I love, so many of you've been a part of the Transform community for many, many years. And the things you're picking up this fourth time in some cases that you're going through, you couldn't even see that the first year that you were going through it, because it is just like a first year advisor coming in the door. They can't see half of what you see, and you could see it blindfolded practically because it's muscle memory for you. And that's what this iterative design development is about. It's about where am I want to go? What one thing can I focus on right now that's going to move the needle? And you dive into that. So last thing I want to spend a little bit of time on is just organization or org charts. Let me pull up this on the iPad. All right. And we're going to look at a sample org chart. And here's, if you are managing money and selling insurance, all these things at some level are happening. Your name may be in every box, but this is what's going on in an organization. And it can be more than this. This is kind of the core of a healthy organization. Is you've got somebody that's playing the role of lead advisor. And that's likely you. They lead client meetings. They cultivate client relationships. You have someone that's project managing, could be you. You're in all the client meetings. They prepare the meeting notes. They disseminate tasks, what needs to be done, monitor the implementation of things, making sure that's accomplished. They do all the strategy summaries. They work in that kind of, for both the estate and tax planning world. Paraplanner. These assimilate data. They prepare for the meetings. They prepare reports, presentations, estate tax planning. They in our case do looms to prepare the project manager. And a really good one can almost do the job of a project manager. And a really good project manager gets to the place where they could do the job of a lead advisor. In fact, a lot of times, some of our best project managers are lead advisors now. And they still have some project management duty, but then their old paraplanner is now stepping into that project manager role for them. They're in all their meetings. So it's like a cycle of growth that could occur. It's a path, not the path. You could have a paraplanner that keeps getting better and better that doesn't want to go into this world or this world. But either way, if you don't have one, you are one, right? You might be doing all these things. Executive assistant, scheduling appointments, calendar management, licensing, compliance, managing staff meetings, team commitments, special projects, SMRU pieces. Director of service and new business. This is making sure new applications are getting sent out and signed, making sure that they get processed through the underwriting process well, nothing's getting stuck, making sure things get delivered, and making sure that any changes that need to happen, the beneficiary changes, address changes, that annual renewals are getting paid, all those kind of things that fall in that kind of life insurance annuity type world. And then AUM director, that's somebody that handles all those same things, but they do it on the asset side for all the Eagle accounts and things like that. And again, if you're touching all those, if you don't have a team, you're the team, right? And then usually you have some kind of financial controller and human resources person doing your monthly reports and sending out your payroll, you're administering your benefits, doing bookkeeping. So what I would recommend you do is on a chart like this, you just write in the name of whoever's playing that role for you right now. And you may be every name in every circle at the moment. And the best thing to do is don't feel like you got to fill in all these with some other name right now, but say, what's the best next gear If I added another gear and I'm a 1-speed bike, what's the second gear I need to add? Well, I would say my game changing gear was when I hired somebody that played both of these roles. Now we have different people. We have separate people playing these roles because that gives you more scale. But at first, I needed someone to play these two roles, and I needed them to be good and have all their teeth. And so those, I think, are one of the best things you could possibly hire for a first one. Many of you have this. You've got somebody or maybe even two people doing these things. Where you would benefit is having this project manager, paraplanner. And maybe this person's doing some of this for you. There's a lot of crossover, right? But getting a dedicated person to be in all your meetings and to do all your preparation. And you need somebody that's got all their teeth. Like if you want the real impact to be made, otherwise you're hiring a project. You're hiring somebody, and we do that. We're okay with that sometimes. We'll hire people that we know they're more bamboo growth. And I don't know if you guys remember our discussion around bamboo, but bamboo, you plant it, and for the first 3 years, it grows like 3 inches. And then after that third year, it'll grow literally 1.5 inches an hour. You can watch it grow, and it goes to enormous heights. Sometimes people you hire, positions you hire, you just need to understand: is this bamboo or is this bicycle? Like, am I going through the roof? Bamboo can be good too. We've developed tons of people that we feel like we're more long-term investments, and there's a track for that. But not if this is like the first person. You want bicycle here. So that's where, again, it comes back to, well, it's going to cost you either way. It costs you in a lot of time, and which translates to money, or it might cost you a little money up front, but gives you massive results much, much quicker. So best part is just which person would be next great person for you to hire, and go from there. So with that, I'm going to stop, and I've talked too much already. So I'm going to check in with you guys and see what anybody's got questions or things on this topic that we want to talk about.